So the three aspects I will be using to describe this photograph are time, light, and focus. So as far as time goes, this is a extrusive time photograph. You can tell by the blurring in the faces of what seems to be horses. That usually makes it seem as though the exposure took a while and thus accounted for motion blur. And for light, the quality is very harsh. You can tell by the shadows from what seems to be a carriage. The shadows are very sharp on the edges, and they are also very full in the middle. You can also tell slightly that it is harsh by the shadows that the shrubs over here cast. They definitely are under a harsh light condition. The source of that light being the sun. The direction seems as though it's almost directly above them. The shadow is offset from them just a bit, but it almost seems like it is directly underneath them. And the light reveals a lot more detail within the sand itself. As you can see, these puddles of shadow that that are caused from these footprints, or what seems to be footprints, they're causing the photograph to have a little bit more definition, because you can tell because of these that this hill right here that the photographer is currently on is not just like the exact same plane as this right here. So the light hides some detail at the same time though. As you can see up here, it seems overexposed almost. The tones in the sand right here are very similar to the tones in the sky, and that causes it to lose definition. I would say that it ends about here, kind of making a cap of less definition on those hills. So this is a three-dimensional photograph because we have the foreground right here, the hill that the photographer is currently on. We have the middle ground right here with the shrubs, the subject, and the tracks as well. This is kind of what gets your attention the most. Everything else is very smooth and very very uninteresting, to say the least. This is kind of this is the difference in this whole dune that kind of attracts your attention. And the background being, of course, these rolling hills in the back. The photograph is the most sharp on the subject. I would say that even to go even further into that, the subject would be the carriage, because it is the most sharp. The horses are still pretty sharp, but what gives it away is the blur in the heads. That kind of causes this strange dissonance from what is truly the sharpest part of this this photograph. So the depth of field is very large. If you look, there's actually quite a lot of detail in these sand dunes. You can even see what seems to be almost like rocks almost. And you can even see some detail on these hills in the back, even behind these bluffs right here. And the visual focal point, I would say, would have to be, of course, the subject, because it kind of just, as you look at this photograph, you kind of scan it, and these rolling hills just kind of roll your attention into this little valley, this little canyon, if you will, filled with these little details of shrubs and the carriage.